Usually, when we talk about being lost, it's mostly a geographical problem, you know.
Right, like taking a wrong turn somewhere.
Exactly. You take a wrong turn, your phone loses its GPS signal,
Right.
and suddenly you're pulling over at a gas station trying to figure out which way is north.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's incredibly frustrating.
Oh, totally. But it is an ultimately solvable physical problem. But, well, what if the GPS you're trying to reboot is for your own existence?
Now that is a terrifying thought.
Right. So in August 2007, a writer named Xu Feng published a text that does something really fascinating. It strips spiritual enlightenment of all its mystical haze.
Mm-hmm.
And it treats finding, quote unquote, the Tao as this really rigid step-by-step navigational challenge.
Yeah, it is a very unique approach.
We are looking at the chapter of Preaching Tao, Article 31, How to Seek the Tao. And the mission for you today, joining us on this deep dive, is to decode what might be the most highly structured, almost logistical approach to finding your place in the universe.
It really fundamentally changes the paradigm of what seeking actually means. I mean, it takes these massive, infinite concepts of space, time, and spirituality and strips them down into almost a complex administrative flowchart.
Yeah, it really does. And the text sets up this core tension right out of the gate with a foundational Taoist quote. It says, "Fish are in water and people are in Tao."
Right, which implies that the thing you are desperately searching for is the very thing you are already entirely submerged in.
Which brings up the author's primary metaphor. And I love this one. It's brilliant and honestly kind of funny. Seeking the Tao, the text argues, is like searching for a donkey while riding on one.
Yeah, you are frantically looking around, asking everyone, hey, have you seen a donkey? All while literally sitting in the saddle.
Or even inside its belly, the text asks.
Exactly. The fundamental problem isn't that the Tao is hidden away on some inaccessible mountain peak. The problem is our complete lack of perspective.
Because we're just too close to it.
Right. We are so consumed by the environment of the Tao that we simply can't perceive it. Our senses are tuned to look outward, searching the horizon for enlightenment, when we are actually encased in the very medium we are trying to locate.
So if we are already on the donkey or in its belly without realizing it, the first step isn't to just start walking forward.
No, walking forward just makes you a lost person moving faster.
Exactly. You have to stop and build a map of exactly where you are.
And that is where the text envisions the entire universe, like all of space and time, as a massive, rigid coordinate system.
And it's divided into exactly 24 quadrants, right?
Yes, exactly 24. It categorizes all of existence by arguing that absolutely every life form resides in one of these 24 quadrants.
Wow, okay.
And within that quadrant, every single life form occupies a specific, unique coordinate point. It grounds this with really clear biological categorization.
Like the animals and insects.
Right. Ants are located in the insect quadrant, wolves are in the wild animal quadrant, cows are in the livestock quadrant.
And humans, naturally, are in the human world quadrant. But simply knowing you are in the human quadrant isn't quite enough to find your exact coordinate point, is it?
No, it's not. The text starts sorting people into distinct spiritual buckets within that quadrant.
Right.
Originally, it lists 8 specific types of humans: perfected persons, ultimate persons, celestial beings, saints, sages, mortals, worldly people, and ignorant people.
Okay, but wait. If I remember correctly, that's just the theoretical list.
Yes, exactly. The author clarifies the practical reality of our current dimension. The perfected persons, the ultimate persons, and the saints, those 3 categories, have essentially already graduated.
They've moved on.
Right, they have entered the ranks of celestial beings and moved beyond the standard human struggle.
Wait, if those 3 have already graduated, does that mean they are no longer in our 24-quadrant map? Or are they just entirely removed from the human quadrant, operating somewhere else in the system?
Good question. They are still within the universe's master coordinate system, but they have transferred out of the human quadrant entirely.
Got it.
So, for the practical purpose of navigating our current human reality, humanity is divided into 5 active coordinate points.
Celestial beings, sages, mortals, worldly people, and ignorant people.
Exactly. And the text doesn't just list these to be judgmental, it uses them as precise logistical markers.
Like coordinates on a GPS.
Right. An ignorant person is completely unaware of the Tao, reacting purely on base instinct. A worldly person is highly aware, but their awareness is entirely focused on material success within the human quadrant. Wealth, status, power.
Right, the daily grind.
Yeah. Then a mortal realizes there is a spiritual dimension, but remains trapped in the mundane confusion of daily life. A sage is actively preparing for the transition out of the human realm. And a celestial being is someone still in human form, but operating at the frequency of the next dimension.
Okay, let's unpack this. Walking into this philosophy is exactly like walking into a massive shopping mall and looking at one of those giant directory maps.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like, you want to get to the food court, which is enlightenment, you can see it on the map, but you absolutely cannot figure out the route until you locate that giant red star that says, you are here.
Yes, exactly.
Seeking the Tao first requires determining whether you are standing on the worldly person square or the mortal square.
Because if you don't know your starting point, any directions you receive are completely useless.
But doing that is easier said than done. You can't just rely on your own internal feelings to find your location.
Oh, definitely not. Our own internal feelings are usually highly biased. I mean, we all want to think we are the sage,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Nobody wants to be the ignorant person.
Exactly. So our subjective understanding will never accurately pinpoint our location. The text demands we use a process of elimination through external reference systems and reference objects.
Right. It asks us to look at wild animals. We observe them, compare our existence to theirs, and definitively realize we do not belong to the wild animal category.
Yes, it forces a comparison.
Then we use a horse as a specific reference object. We compare our lives to the life of a horse and conclude we are not in the livestock category either. You essentially strip away what you are not, so you are forced to confront what you actually are.
And confronting what you are requires breaking out of that autopilot mindset that keeps you blind to the donkey you were riding.
Which triggers the ultimate questions: who am I and where am I?
Exactly. The text demands we ask some highly specific, deeply structural questions about our own physical form to break that trance.
Okay, but I have to push back on the author here for a second.
Okay, why is that?
Well, because when you think of spiritual questions, you expect things like, what is the nature of love? Or, how do I find inner peace?
Sure, the classic philosophical stuff.
Right. But this text goes straight for biology. It demands you ask yourself these bizarre questions like, why is my middle finger longer than the other four fingers?
It is a very strange pivot.
It is. And it asks, why aren't my eyes on the back of my head? Why do I have only two legs? Like, am I reading a guide to the Tao or a high school anatomy textbook? Why focus on the skeleton instead of the soul?
I get why that feels jarring. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay, how so?
Well, we take our physical reality completely for granted. We accept that we have two legs and a long middle finger simply because that's how it is. We don't question it.
I mean, yeah, I've never really pondered my middle finger before today.
Right, and the text argues that this blind acceptance of our physical form is the root symptom of our spiritual blindness. If you never question the arbitrary nature of your physical vessel, you will never possess the curiosity required to question the universe it is traveling through.
Oh, wow. Okay, so forcing you to ask why about the mundane details of your hand cracks open your default sense of reality.
Exactly. Questioning the physical inevitably forces you to question the spatial.
Right. Once you genuinely ask why your body is built this way, you have to ask, where did I come from and where am I going?
And solving that where did I come from problem requires understanding the true meaning of space. The text guides us to start questioning the nature of different spatial realities.
Like dreams, for example.
Yes. Dreams and waking reality are two entirely different spaces that we experience. So it asks, how many different mutually exclusive spaces actually exist in the universe?
It's wild how it spirals out from the middle finger all the way to the structure of the cosmos.
It really is a massive scale up.
Right. We call our current place the human world, but do heavenly realms and another world actually exist? And it doesn't stop at merely pondering their existence. It demands logistical answers.
Yes, the logistics are key here.
Like, where is the heavenly realm? How many worlds does it contain? Where is the nether world? And how many layers of space does it have?
And solving these spatial problems is how you obtain an administrative map of the universe.
The administrative map, I love that phrasing.
Once you have mapped out these layers, you finally understand the architecture of the 24 quadrants. You have finally found your You Are Here star on the mall directory.
But having the coordinates of your starting point is only half the equation, isn't it?
Right, because having a map doesn't actually generate any forward momentum.
Exactly. You inevitably run into the question of purpose. Why did I come to the human world? Are my tasks done? Where is the next stop?
And this naturally introduces the concept of time.
Which is fascinating because we usually think of time as like a ticking clock, a countdown, or maybe a river we are floating down.
Right, a passive experience.
Yeah. But the author beautifully redefines time not as a ticking clock, but as a literal vehicle, specifically a spaceship.
It's such a striking image. Time is the vessel we board to travel toward our next spiritual destination.
And what's crazy is how strangely practical and administrative the text gets about this journey.
Oh, it becomes a complete travel itinerary.
Yes. To seek the Tao, we have to ask logistical questions about our spaceship. Do we have enough fuel? Do we have enough food?
What are the risks we'll encounter?
Right. Do we need a guide so we don't get lost halfway there?
It takes the ethereal, philosophical concept of moving through time toward enlightenment and turns it into rigorous travel prep. Treating the spiritual journey with the pragmatism of a road trip forces you to reconsider what spiritual progression actually requires.
Because it isn't just about good intentions, is it?
No, it requires actual resources and an awareness of danger.
So in the context of this spiritual framework, the fuel for your spaceship obviously isn't gasoline.
Right. It is the accumulation of spiritual merit, the conscious severing of earthly attachments, and the daily refinement of your awareness.
Okay, so if you are operating as a worldly person like we talked about earlier, just burning all your energy on accumulating wealth.
Then your spaceship has zero spiritual fuel. You aren't going anywhere when time moves forward. You will just remain stuck in the human quadrant.
Wow. And the most surprising detail for me was when the text asked if we need documents, like a passport or visa, at the border of our destination.
Yes, that blew my mind.
Comparing spiritual enlightenment to international travel prep is just so brilliant. I mean, think about the mechanics of a visa. It is literally permission to enter a foreign space because you have proven you meet their specific criteria.
Exactly. You have enough funds, a clean record, and a valid reason to be there.
Right. You can't just stumble into another country or a celestial quadrant just because you feel like you belong there.
No, the universe is divided into strict administrative regions, remember? Crossing from the human quadrant to a higher dimensional quadrant requires administrative clearance.
So your passport is essentially the verified state of your consciousness.
Yes. It's the proof of whether you have successfully elevated yourself from a mortal to a sage.
But if we are prepping for this interstellar, interdimensional journey, how do we gauge if our preparations are adequate? I mean, we can't just look at our own passport and know if it's valid because we've never crossed that border before.
Right, we don't know what the border guards are looking for, so we have to consult the guides who have already made the trip.
The extraordinary people.
Exactly. The text lists these extraordinary people who came to the human world with a specific mission. It lists Jesus Christ, Buddha Shakyamuni, Laozi, Prophet Muhammad, and the spiritual entity Seth.
Now, regardless of someone's personal religious beliefs, the text leverages these figures for a very specific functional purpose, doesn't it?
It really does. It strips away the dogma. They didn't just leave behind vague moral philosophies. They left information.
They are the ultimate reference objects.
Yes. By listening to the information these guides left behind, we realize that, as the text emphasizes, attracts people form groups.
Okay, but what kind of information are we actually talking about in the context of a 24-quadrant universe?
Yeah.
Are they leaving behind literal navigational charts?
In a way, yes, they are leaving behind frequency calibrations.
Frequency calibrations.
Right. Their teachings help us map out our exact trajectory. They show us exactly where celestial beings go versus where mortals, worldly people, or ignorant people inevitably end up.
So by studying the precise logistical information they provided about, say, compassion or detachment,
we can clearly trace the routes. Jesus maps one route, Buddha maps another, but they are all providing the necessary data to navigate out of the human quadrant.
So what does this all mean?
What do you mean?
Well, we've mapped the 24 quadrants. We've stared at our hands to break our physical illusions. We've calculated the spiritual fuel for our spaceship of time. And we've read the navigational charts left by the great guides.
Right.
Does doing all that mean we have finally found the Tao?
Well, the final conclusion of the text is really sobering. Seeking the Tao is not a magical spell you cast, nor is it a sudden flash of lightning that permanently alters your brain.
It's not a light bulb moment.
No. Once you use these extraordinary guides to figure out your quadrant and your specific human category, your position simply becomes undeniably clear. Your coordinate is locked.
You know you're standing on the mortal square, staring at the border of the celestial realm.
Exactly. And once that position is clear, the author states the only remaining task is simply how to quickly reach the standard.
Doing the work.
Doing the work. It means continuously self-correcting your coordinates, adjusting your fuel, and applying the guide's teachings every single day.
So the process itself is the answer.
Yes. This entire logistical process, the relentless exploration, the questioning of reality, the categorizing of your behavior, the rigorous effort to align your frequency, that entire process is the act of seeking the Tao. The seeking itself is the practice.
It replaces vague mysticism with actionable accountability.
Perfectly said.
So, just to sum up this incredible journey for you, we started by acknowledging the donkey we are currently riding, the reality that we are totally submerged in the Tao.
Right, we had to stop looking for it outside ourselves.
Then, we found our exact coordinate point among the universe's 24 quadrants. We broke our physical autopilot by questioning our reality down to the length of our middle finger, all to acquire the universe's administrative map.
Which is quite the leap.
It really is.
Yeah.
And armed with that map, we boarded the spaceship of time, calculating the spiritual fuel required for the journey. Finally, we consulted the navigational data of the extraordinary guides, realizing that the grueling structured work of reaching the standard is the Tao itself.
It really forces a remarkable progression from just physical awareness to actual cosmic positioning.
It does. It's a completely different way to look at spirituality.
And, leaving you with a final thought to mull over based strictly on the text's travel logistics analogy.
Oh, the passport idea.
Yes, we discussed the text's idea of needing a passport or visa at the border of your next spiritual destination.
Right.
Based on what category of human you align with today, whether you're a mortal, a worldly person, or a sage, and based on how much actual fuel you've put into your preparations.
Mm-hmm.
What does your spiritual passport look like right now? And if you arrived at the border tomorrow, would the border guards of your next destination actually let you through?
Wow, that is a heavy question to sit with. Your spiritual GPS might feel broken sometimes. You might feel totally lost, but maybe you weren't lacking a signal. Maybe you just haven't looked closely enough at the map or realized that the vehicle you are frantically searching for is the very one carrying you right now. Check your coordinates, keep an eye on your fuel gauge, and thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next journey.